All right, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Slowburn Show, episode number 12. I got a very special guest in Hunter Gregory today. He's coming off a win at the Pan-Ams 2023 Pan-Ams Championship. He's a three Naga stripe blue belt, very well known in the jiu-jitsu space around from where I'm at. And before we get started, I wanted to say that I really do appreciate you just in general being in my life because if I didn't meet you at FGL, you and David Head at FGL, I probably wouldn't even be doing any of the stuff I'm doing. So thank you very much for just being that butterfly effect of mine. Because I wouldn't have found Phoenix at all. But explain that little belt you got right there, right now, champion.
Saying, I appreciate you because without training partners like you, I never have this Naga strap.
Yeah. Does that fit well?
Sick T-shirt. Shout out to all the Naga dads out there.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, for sure, meeting you at work and just from that point on, I've been training for like maybe a year and some change. So it's like, yeah, those are some, I don't know, some times.
Some different times. Lamont.
That whole like pre-COVID time, like working there, was yeah, interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I had long hair back then. I was even smaller than I am now. Working at, I was 18 working at that bar, and that was something else. Like from living in Murfreesboro and then going to working in this three-story bar. Like I never even seen a three-story bar before in my life, and then I was working in one.
Like that experience being so young, like and that's your first real job.
Right.
And it's just a madhouse.
Yeah.
Just seeing so yeah, it just and even like how much like the city of like Nashville has changed from that time. What like 4 years ago when you started working there? It's like not even the same place. All of it, just everything around it. You know what I mean? And just the whole like I don't know when the last time you've been downtown is. Even that has changed.
Yeah. I haven't been downtown, like down on Broadway, in at least a couple months, maybe even a year.
Well, avoid it, brother.
Yeah, I know. I know it's not the best place, but my first question that I want to ask you in this interview is like, how did you even find Phoenix yourself?
Oh, so just live. So the gym was originally located in like Hermitage, Tennessee. So it's like 5 minutes from the airport. Is the easiest way to explain what Hermitage is. The armpit of Middle Tennessee. I remember I was actually working at FGL House, and I've been boxing just like a little amateur program for like a year, maybe a year and a half. I was like, oh, this was before boxing was trendy as it is now, but I was like, this stuff is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was a holiday weekend, and there was actually a fight at the bar. And I remember there was a group of like women involved and men, and there was like punches being thrown. And I remember I was trying to like help separate it, and I remember I just felt useless because like you're not going to hit women, you're not going to hit people.
Right.
You can't hit people in that type of scenario. That's like it's just not smart. It's done
Right.
with a lawsuit. It's jail time.
And it just raises the tensions even more when extra people are throwing punches.
And it's a lose-lose regardless. It's a terrible. So I here, and I was always like an avid Joe Rogan listener, and Joe Rogan always would talk about the miracle of jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw this little gym and this little, little run this little shopping center, just like the whole location.
Yeah.
The stories from there you could write a book on from just that gym location.
Yeah.
So I just rolled up in there on a Monday, like at lunchtime, just by chance, introduced myself to Corey, got to talking. Turns out, his fiance, wife, she worked down his brother. Like he had worked, like it's all these little strings started coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, all right, cool. And then I showed up. So that's what brought me in. But what like really made me fall in love with jiu-jitsu is Corey at the time was probably like he's 2 inches taller than me. I probably had 20 pounds on him. Remember, I took class and we rolled, and he mounted me and arm triangled me. And I was like, there's no way this little dude can just stick me to the mat. And like little, and I say that, but like I came from a bodybuilding background. I was like, you could, and after he submitted me in like 30 seconds, I was like, oh, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah. That was gonna be my second question. Is what made you like jiu-jitsu, but you kind of answered it. Yeah.
Me getting beat up is what
yeah.
made me, like fall in love with it.
Yeah, I remember. I got the same kind of treatment going in there, and it was kind of even reminiscent of my wrestling days. Cause like when I first went into wrestling, I thought I was like any dude my size, like they're fucked, like they're gonna take him down by any means. I don't care how strong or how technical they are, but even having that wrestling experience and then going into jiu-jitsu, I thought I would be able to like withstand myself because the only time I had heard of jiu-jitsu before going there was this guy on my wrestling team that he did jiu-jitsu, but the bad thing about it, he just sucked. He was like really bad at it, so it wasn't like my best interpretation at it. Because one time at a wrestling practice, my coach, we were doing like practicing top position moves, and this guy was on top of me, and my coach was like, "All right, you can do whatever jujitsu move you want to Swink at the moment," like just picking on me. But the guy couldn't even choke me then, so I thought jujitsu was kind of like
Yeah.
for nerds, dude. I thought it was like for people that couldn't wrestle did jujitsu. But when I went into Phoenix the first time, I would definitely got like choked out. There was this guy. He was a blue belt. I can't remember his name, but he did some like catch wrestling or bat wrestling. You might know who I'm talking about.
Would he be in like wrestling boots training or?
No, I mean he wore his gi and he had a blue belt, but it was called something like he was like a world champion in bat wrestling or catch wrestling. I don't know what they called it.
I wonder if there was a guy that was a blue belt, like Craig Chili's. But he was like a former like All American wrestler. You remember him? And he won like combat sambo or combat. He won some.
I think it's that guy, but
but
that was the well, that was like the first dude I went with like at full speed in jiu-jitsu, and he fucked me up. I had no chance. I was getting tapped out uh, at least every 10 seconds, but it was just because I kept going in for like trying to get single legs and double legs, and then you get guillotined, and then you're just getting sprawled on. But
let alone if you do jiu-jitsu with people that like nowadays where the modern jiu-jitsu game is like ADCC rule sets becoming more. It's like if you can wrestle and do like that constant, you never like if you take like a wrestling approach as far as movement, all that like instead of like old school jiu-jitsu is like, oh, I'll lay on my back,
right.
But it's like if you have a constant movement to your game, it's pretty. Yeah, it is wrestling essentially too.
Yeah, the pace seems a little different, but there's a lot of positions from wrestling that you can use in jiu-jitsu for sure.
Yeah. In the pacing time, there is a difference, but still, it's like you can have that constant movement to your game. Like rolling with somebody like a Jackson,
Yeah.
It's like they're just on you all the time, like saying like a wet blanket or whatever.
Yeah.
No way to describe it.
Right. So what would you recommend someone if they were going to get into jiu-jitsu or if they started jiu-jitsu? Would there something you would tell them to like have a certain mindset about something or what they should do specifically?
Yeah, I'd say the basic one is just be prepared to suck. Like, be okay with like sucking at something, which is the cliche response.
Yeah.
Dude, I trained like even like working full time job, whatever. I trained as much as I possibly could, like pretty much every day of the week. Most days, twice a day if I can make it in. Whatever you have to work, live life. I have a wife. You know what I'm saying? Doing all that stuff. But it's like Jesus, dude. You just get beat up. You just get beat up every day for 6 months, and then finally you like, oh, I can beat that guy, and then before you know it, 6 months turns into a year, and then it's like a gradual. The whole time you have to, of course, adapt new skills into your game, listen to your coaches, take time out of your day, watch videos. But I'm like when I first started training, like I just fell in love. So it's like if there was a podcast I could watch, if there was a YouTube, anything like finding good channels, like there's like YouTube channels such as Jiu-Jitsu was one I would watch all the time. Like Chewy, he's a Nick Albin, I think's his name. He's out of Kentucky, but he has just great videos that you can watch. Just watch those. It takes 10 minutes out of your day, and then as you get more developed in your skill, you watch longer, deeper instructionals. Kind of go from there. But I just love jiu-jitsu, so it wasn't hard because it's like I could absorb it all and just watch it.
Right. Yeah.
This is adding skills.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you saying that just be prepared to be like just suck at the damn thing and not be good right away because there's very few people I think that go into jiu-jitsu or really any combat sport and really good right off the bat. It usually takes time with everybody. It may be 6 months, it could be 2 years, but eventually it's nothing like nobody's getting good enough to tap a black belt in 3 times in 5 minutes in 2 months of training. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like that's like I'm excited to see where jiu-jitsu is going because I feel like I see it more with like the weightlifting culture is starting to come into jiu-jitsu more with just like influencers and stuff. I was just talking to my buddy. He sells like physical training certifications through like a through one of the like a NASM, like National Academy side, whatever. It's like PT certs, and he said like out of all his calls, people nowadays are mentioning like, oh, I do jiu-jitsu. It's just becoming a part of culture more. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with it.
Yeah. Speaking about the future, and I agree with what you're saying as well, that more people are getting into the space at a growing rate, just like how the UFC kind of blew up in its own ways at certain periods of times. Like Gordon Ryan's definitely a good person for the sport. He's promoting it like a motherfucker. But speaking of the future, what do you have planned for this year, the rest of this year in jiu-jitsu, and we can go maybe 5 years. What do you want to like accomplish in those times?
Okay. This year, I guess that's the funny. Is like I accomplished. It's weird. Like whenever you set yourself to accomplish goals, like I wanted to win a major in jiu-jitsu from the time I started. So I got the major win. Now it's like not now. Like I've just kind of been like celebrating too much, but it's crazy how like you're like celebrating is like not dieting, not diet, basically just not dieting. I'm still training and stuff, but it's like I feel like there's like no pressure. Whereas before it's like you got to meet this goal, so you felt like everything was you're constantly working towards that. So now like the Nashville Open's coming up, so I'll do it. But as far as where I want to go next, I guess there's like there's promotion aspects of it. Does that change it? It's just really, but either way, I'll just still want to do the majors, do some ADCC Opens, do a couple IBJJF majors, and then yeah, just really. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, I just love jiu-jitsu. So like as long as I get to train, like dude, I'm really happy with. Like
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm happy with that. As long as I'm healthy and training, because that's like one of my major setbacks. I separated my AC joint like last summer. And this is advice. I pushed off getting it looked at for so long, and I let this minor little injury turn into just like 6 months of pain. And
Yeah.
like, that's my big. That's one of my regrets is like not addressing the issue sooner. But that's finally getting healthier.
That's good.
But for my next 5 years, I would just like I said, if I can train and keep competing, I mean, eventually I would like to have my own school or like be able to teach full time, like be able to actually just make jiu-jitsu my job.
Yeah.
And that I know that's like everybody that trains in his love, that's what they want to do. But I guess for me now, I have to put a real plan and get a real plan together to actually make something like that happen. Because you can say it all you want, but if there's no action behind it, you'll just spin your wheels. So I need to polish that out, that real plan out, a real business, instead of just, oh, that's what I want to do.
Right.
But, yeah, because that's what everybody wants to do. Like, oh yeah, cool. What about you? What's your plans for this year or next month?
This year, I was gonna try and get 3 fights in. That's still possible. 3 amateur fights in, and then go pro next year. But the first one, March 18th, kind of fell apart at the last second, and then we got April 28th coming up, and I haven't gotten a name about that yet, but it should. I would assume they find me somebody in the time being, and that I get the.
Feel like it's hard to find like 125ers.
In Tennessee, no. Honestly, it's weird. I feel like it's oddly the Tennessee 125 amateur scene. It's oddly like looked at a lot. Like it's got a spotlight on it. Like there's a guy named Vincent Van Alstine, and he's undefeated, and he's the #1 ranked flyweight in Tennessee, and Aries promotes him a lot. There's this guy named Bryce Warner. People promote him a lot. I just fought probably the most promoted flyweight in Tennessee, and Jamie. He's like
Jamie's got a big back. Yeah.
Everybody knows about him, and then there's this guy. I was supposed to fight Jeer. And then there's a guy named Maverick Cooper that people look at, Mario Umano. There's actually quite a few dudes to actually look at and try to get a fight against. But
I guess I think back to like your first fight. I remember you fought a dude from Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I know it was like kind of at the end of like COVID. I was like, this dude flew to Lebanon, Tennessee for a cage fight.
It was definitely odd. I mean, that one came together quite wasn't like, how do you say, like very planned out. Like I was supposed to fight another guy. I wasn't supposed to fight Alex. I was supposed to fight Hunter Harris, And but for some reason, like 5 weeks out, he couldn't do it. So they found me Alex Ortiz from Hawaii. I was down for whatever, and that's the kind of the mindset I'm in. Again, it's like I'm just if someone can make 125 pounds at this point, I'm just ready to go and just get this get these experience over.
So you can stay on your plan of like getting the work in for the year.
Yeah, and I think after I won my first fight, I was kind of in the mentality of like I wanted to try and pick an opponent and go after that opponent to raise my level. But I felt like me doing that is almost it's smart in some ways, but I just need to be ready to fight anybody. If I want to be world champ in the UFC, like if they can make 125 pounds, I should be ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm just kind of doing that for now. I worked at a new job. I just got a new job like lifting furniture and stuff, so I've been getting fucking swole. Uh, so I don't want to go up a weight class yet, but that time will probably come if I keep doing what I'm doing. And
do you feel like lifting and stuff like that, you're needing like more calories and like you're eating more? Do you feel like they're just all of it, or
I don't. It's not even that I'm necessarily gaining weight by any means, but I'm just gaining more muscle at this point. Because
if you're slinging furniture, yeah.
Yeah, we're moving furniture all the time. I mean, it's not the lightest things, and we don't use any like forearm forklifts, if you know what those are.
Yeah.
We don't use any of that, so like we're just lifting heavy shit, just two dudes, and I'm like the tiniest guy there, but that's how it is.
Like, good career.
I know, dude.
The guy that weighs 140 pounds.
I know, man. But yeah, for the next 5 years, I mean, I think in 5 years I could be in the UFC if everything goes right. I want to go pro next year and start doing pro because I'm already tired of fighting for free at this point. Doing these amateur fights are kind of the time limit sucks. Like I hate only having 9 minutes to work with, and if I was in a professional fight, I would have 15 minutes, and that's like my main game is cardio. So being able to drag fights out into the later rounds would help me, or even just an actual round 2 and an actual round 3 in a fight when it comes to pros. And using knees and elbows as well. I got these bony little elbows that I can't wait to use on somebody.
Gotta cut them open.
Yeah. But you were talking about bodybuilders earlier, and I was thinking about how if they're getting into the scene, how like steroids are being used, and I wanted to get your kind of thoughts on your thoughts on the Mika Galval situation and steroid use in jiu-jitsu. And I'm not really I'm not trying to say that from a point of like steroids are bad. I don't think steroids are bad.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's funny. That like steroids are actually, well, I guess be careful what I label, but it's like I remember whenever I first started training, what got me like kind of when I first like jiu-jitsu clip I seen was who's Mark Paul Harris. It was just like a picture of him on Instagram, and I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
Man. Like, you know, just him. And as you get into jiu-jitsu, you realize like he was known for being one of like most devastating leg lockers in the UFC. But like the Mika Gaval, like for number one, like his jiu-jitsu is insane. I mean, he's young, like none of that can be taken away. But to me, I feel like a lot of it, I guess, like I used to be a bodybuilder, so it's like I can kind of like sniff it out.
Right.
Like to me, it doesn't seem like a secret. It's like Mika was competing. He's competing almost up at like over close to 200 pounds, like only a year ago. So it's like, and then he goes down to lightweight for Worlds. I'm like, dude, you don't gaining 30 and 40 pounds. And I know at that level, like they're cutting, you know, a lot of weight and whatever, but it's like 30 and 40 pound weight gains are, you know, it's like, to me, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put two and two together.
Right.
And I think it's a part of jiu-jitsu in a weird way because it's also jiu-jitsu something that you can do as far as like what's therapeutic use, you know, as far as TRT. But there's so many older guys that are 40 years old that have better bodies than most 20-year-olds. I feel like it's just like lifting weights and steroids, whatever you want to call it, is just part of the jiu-jitsu scene.
Yeah.
And the testing is hit or miss at best, or just not there.
How do you about like Nicky Rod and Gordon Ryan?
And like Nicky Rod is like another one. It's like he first came on the scene, I remember him. He had a match against Muhammad Ali at the 2019 ADCC. They both looked like two like professional bodybuilders having a jiu-jitsu match,
Mm.
and it's like maybe I'm naive, but it's like this doesn't seem like something that could be achieved naturally.
Yeah.
But what do I know? Because yeah, what do I know? He did his blood work, came back clean. So
Yeah.
now he's clean.
If it's true that he is clean, I've seen the him get his blood tested and everything by Derek, right? But with more plays, more dates.
Yeah, and it is what 6 months post ADCC. So if there was ever a time, there's no major. So if there was ever a time to be clean, it would make sense that right now would be that time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
so
what do you think? And I'm not saying this does do this when I ask this question, but do you think it ruins the integrity of the sport if we let everybody just do whatever they wanted and there was no drug testing? Would it be like a more? Do you think the level of skill would weigh out the performance that comes out of the enhancements, if that makes sense, or do you think we're just really seeing who has the best product?
Yeah, it's like Nate Diaz would say, everybody's on fucking steroids.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Man, I feel like that's a tough biz.
Because they're still going to be good. They're still going to be good, but
and I think too, like heavyweight jiu-jitsu is so much more different than lightweight jiu-jitsu. But then Mike Gavall he's a lightweight. He won lightweight, so that argument doesn't really add up. I don't know. I mean, the integrity, and you're like growing a sport. ADCC, the main flagship of it, it promotes gear use.
Yeah.
And if you look at years, I really don't. I mean, I don't even know if there is ever any quote unquote integrity to begin with, because they've always said like just gas up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it's the one championship. It's even if you look at the old, it's for me, I don't really have a good answer, because at the end of the day, somebody still wins.
Right.
Of course, anabolics help you train more, recover more, all the above. So, but I really don't have the answer for it, you know?
I think with all sports besides like anything that involves striking to the head, I think any sport like baseball, NFL, including like jiu-jitsu and wrestling, because I mean you still can get blows to the head from there, like crashing for takedowns and stuff. But when it comes to like kickboxing, boxing, and MMA, I think those are the only times that I don't agree with steroid use, and because people can die, if that makes sense.
And I guess that is the thing is and jiu-jitsu is such a whereas like MMA, like especially UFC, is actually regulated where everybody is subjected or supposed to be subjected to the same amount of testing. Then yes, it really matters. Whereas in the jiu-jitsu world, I think I don't know. I could be misspeaking on this, but it's like the IBJJF. I think they only test the first place, or I thought at one point they tested all of them. But it's not like they're testing every black belt in the division. Then it would make sense for an integrity thing. But the way they talk about it is it's kind of an IQ test. It's like just cycle off before the world. So give yourself adequate time. So, so I guess it's not. It's just UFC. Yes, it would. There's definitely a level where people, like you said, are locking themselves into a cage and hurting each other. Like potentially could kill somebody.
Yeah.
And everybody should be subjected to the same amount of testing. But then you hear about people
getting tested.
In Thailand, they don't go to Thailand.
Yeah.
So there's gray areas around that. And then with the John Jones scandal, you had the guy that was the president of was it Water? You saw it on one of the two or one of those, defending the picograms and it's like, dude, what is this?
Yeah, man. So, it's definitely a conversation to be had, but I don't know I don't think there's any way to fix it. Some people will say like, well, what if everybody was just taking the same stuff? No, there's never going to be a point where people are going to listen. There's always going to be someone that tries to take the advantage, and now there's scientists that know how to like add on an extra chemical compound to a specific steroid so the test can't even pick it up. So you're never going to fix it, but I guess you can try to regulate it as much as possible.
Yeah. and even in like say like bodybuilding is another sport that is like steroids are part of it, but then they have natural bodybuilding associations. But then half the people that are winning like natural bodybuilding shows are taking
Right.
some sort of anabolic that's like this is the lesser of
Yeah.
the evils. Like,
Yeah.
people, if there's a way to win at something, if there's
Yeah.
competition, money, whatever it is, people find a way to cheat the system
Right.
or better their odds of winning by any means necessary.
Yeah, and I don't mean to reiterate myself, but when I'm asking all these questions, I'm not like putting down anybody that takes any type of
No.
anabolic, because I know when I'm done fighting, I'm getting on all the sauce. When I'm done competing and doing, I'm getting on everything. But
And I feel like steroids are just a part of American, like
yeah,
it's American culture, like being big, muscular, and
yeah,
like have it. It's just a part of us.
right. No, I agree.
Feels
I
that
agree.
way.
The last question I have for myself before we get to the fan questions is I've been competing in jiu-jitsu for around 4 years, and I don't know what the hell os means. What the fuck does that mean?
Oos.
Do we know?
Oos. I mean, I know I think it's a Brazilian thing, but I've heard other people say it came from soccer.
Mm,
I don't know, but you just hit them with that oos.
yeah.
But I feel like we don't do any of that. Like
No.
we train. Some places do, but you are right. It
Right.
does make me feel like oos.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. It's like that Ricky Bobby where he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands right now.
Right. Yeah.
Talladega Nights. Yeah.
Just I don't know if I've ever said it in a real meaning, but I don't even know what it would be meaning if I did say it.
If you train tonight, I'm gonna hit you with
Yeah.
oos.
Yeah. I'll be there tonight. We can move on to the fan questions now, and I only got two. One is from
You have 2 fans.
two. Yeah, two. And they're great questions. Yeah, that's how Naga they promote you well. The first one's from John or Jonathan Kelly. He wants you to give us your take on the current political climate.
Current political climate. All right, here's the honest take. I think it's just every time throughout history, if you look at the newspapers from 1950 and 1970, it's always doom and gloom. But really, it's always something. If it wasn't the last from 2016 to 2020, it was like Trump is evil, and then it's Biden can't do this, or you just ignore it. It's always something, and you have to educate yourself on it to make sure that you don't want to be blind where if something actually does happen, but if you let it consume you, you'll just live a miserable life.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of old folks
Yeah.
do that.
And like again, I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan podcasts and some political podcasts. And Rogan had a guest on like a month or two ago that was just explaining like China, Russia, our relationships with Mexico, about countries possibly leaving the United States dollar, all this stuff, and it's just an ever evolving thing. Like he was saying how like we're worried about losing like the labor of China, and we get all these things that make you think the U.S. economy is going to collapse, whatever. He's just like, well, we have Mexico right below us, who's like another like booming country that we can use for trade, and it just evolves into the next thing. So I think as long as we as Americans can get along and be cordial with American to American and not cause our own self-destruction, we should be fine. Right?
I agree.
Yeah. But even politics, you get too deep in on it, you better, so that's my pretty neutral response.
Yeah, I liked it. No, that was a good answer to that. And then the second one is, how does it feel to be clean and legal, and what does that mean as well?
Dude, keep it clean and legal, dude.
That's an anonymous one.
Yeah. So clean and legal is just that's just when you're in one of these good old cage fights, a good Naga match, you might get chippy out there.
Yeah.
You just got to keep it clean and legal.
Yep.
And if you don't know what keeping it clean and legal is, you're already too lost
Yep.
to bring back, brother.
Yep, I agree.
Keep it clean and legal. I don't know what to tell you. The Lord can't help you on that one.
Right.
But dude, you just got to keep it clean and legal.
Keep it.
Just add it into your repertoire of dumb phrases. That's the
that's awesome
middle school football coach.
Yeah.
That just gives you that like open-ended advice, like you got to train hard.
Yeah.
And you just got to show up.
Right.
And you'll make it to the NFL. It's like, dude, I'm 5'7", 150 pounds. I ain't making it. I might make it to the NFL stadium to watch the game.
Right.
But yeah, that's clean and legal.
Keeping it clean and legal. I'm gonna have to use that now.
I just comment that on all of Corey's posts just
Yeah.
because I have a mind of a 12-year-old.
Yeah, that's awesome though. And then this is a new thing I want to try and start because I've seen another podcast do it, but I don't really like plan out my guests too much. I kind of just like if someone in our gym does something big or someone that I know has something going on, I try to get them on to try and promote themselves.
You
And
mean something like this big?
right, yeah, that big.
Oh, crap.
Are you gonna defend that at the next one? You gotta bring it and walk around with it.
You know, I guess when Naga comes back to town, and even though I'm in those matches, I have to tell the refs when I get points.
Yeah.
You know, I might give them another $160.
Yeah.
You know, might as well.
But what I wanted to, because I don't really plan out my guests, I want to start having my current guests of the episode ask just a random question, whatever question they want, to the next person that's coming on, even though me and you don't know who it's going to be at the moment. We don't know who's going to be on here next, but if you had any question to give the person, what would you ask them?
It could just be anything random.
Anything. It doesn't have to be like.
What's your top 3 podcasts in your current podcast? You know.
That's a good question.
Listening.
Yeah. Repertoire. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
What's your top 3 right now? There you go.
There you go. That is a good answer.
I'm gonna actually ask it to you. What's your top 3 right now?
I listen to my number one is the Michael Bisping and Anthony Smith podcast. I love listening to those two dudes go at it, and their producers are funny too, so it makes for a good show. They make jokes about his eye all the time, and they just keep it. They try to bring like a comedy sense to MMA.
Mike Bisping's like a really charismatic dude, and I feel like he's always like, I could see that being good. Yeah.
This guy doesn't really do a podcast. He like just does more clips. But I listen to Chael Sonnen a lot. I listen to almost like every single one of his clips on YouTube. And I think everyone's, of course, is Joe Rogan. Anytime, but I only listen to Joe Rogan really when there's an MMA guy on there or some.
I love, dude, those Joe Rogan MMA podcasts are some biz. You get like if you are an athlete or fighter or whatever it is. Whenever, like, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, like, how'd you fall in love with jiu-jitsu, how'd you get good, or I'm still not good, but how did you learn?
Right.
Is like they go on those podcasts and just give out gold tidbits. Like the Benil Dariush, like, was the most recent one I could think about. But he's just talking about training with Khabib, where if his athletes are having a bad day, he'll take their phone from them. Like, if they're not getting enough sleep, if they're having a bad day, he won't let them spar. So it's like, these little things that, like, help compound into making some of the best athletes in the world. So yeah.
I listen to other ones as well. I like to listen just mainly MMA and comedy stuff, and that's why I think the Michael Bisping one is my favorite one, just because it's like both of them together.
Yeah, both their things blended into one. Yeah.
What are your 3? What 3 do you like to listen to?
I mean, Joe Rogan's number 1, Papa Joe. Right now, he's been doing like the podcast circuit, but it's like Chris DiStefano, like Chrissy D.
Oh, I know who that is.
Dude, it's hilarious because he like goes in and out of bits.
Mm-hmm.
You like don't know, but see, mine rotates so much because I feel like comedy, like, and I like comedy. Is like the another one of those two is We Might Be Drunk. It's Mark Norman, because Mark Norman's like another one of those guys.
Yeah.
And then you could always throw some Theo Von in there. Like, I feel like there's just so many, and I'll just like listen to some of them, then go on to the next, because it's all comedy, but they do. I know, like, it just depends on how you're feeling. Can like make you feel better or worse.
Right.
Or whatever it is I'm trying to say.
No, I know what you mean. Anytime I listen to Theo, even when he's in like he's not afraid to like express his like depression at times and like stuff he's going through. Yeah, and I love that about him. I mean, he doesn't give you like every detail about what's going on, but he'll let you know like times aren't going good.
Yeah, he'll give you a little juice. I've actually done jiu-jitsu with Theo.
Yep.
A handful of times.
I've only met him. I met him twice. One time was at the Dustin Poirier glove signing that he did in Nashville, or like meet and greet, and that was the first time I ever met a famous person, and I met two famous people that night. And when I met Dustin, they give you all these like little gift things. Like he gave me a glove, like I got a glove that he signed, and then his hot sauce and other shit like that. And when it was me and John Kelly actually went, and it was the night that Jorge got knocked out by Usman, and Rose knocked out Wei Lee, and Chris Weidman broke his leg.
Oh yeah, dude, I got my foot absolutely shredded in a combat jiu-jitsu tournament that night. I remember that night. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, that was a crazy night, honestly. And but as we're walking to go put our stuff in the car to go back to the bar and watch the fights, Theo is like off in a corner, like smoking a cigarette or something, and like he definitely. And this was at the time I listened to his podcast, and he would talk about being sober, but this guy was anything but sober at this point, and he was like off in a corner, and you would only know it was him if you like, because he was wearing a jacket that he had just wore on a podcast, and then the way he looked too, like you would have only known if you were a Theo Vaughn fan that it was him. And I like fangirled for the first time ever in my life, or fanboyed, whatever. Like I freaked out, like I dropped my stuff, and I was like, "Oh Theo, you gotta have a picture with me."
Weird or cool?
No, I acted weird. Yeah, dude.
I've had a fame. I usually don't care about famous people, but I've been at the same boat where I acted so weird around a celebrity. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like toilet paper on my shoe, and I was like an idiot.
Yeah, man. I mean, he was super cool about it because like he was just all for it, and like a girl from the event basically came and saved him from us because we were just.
But you could tell he was like going through it, because I feel like Theo, like how you said, he'll like let in. I feel like whenever he talks about breaking recovery or whatever it is from whatever he's battling, like he'll like snippet it in, like, oh, now I'm 30 days off of this, or and he doesn't like say it like, oh, but he'll say it if you are paying attention.
Yeah, and yeah, I love him as a person. He's just really cool. And then the second time I met him was I was doing security in Nashville, and I started working at a bar called Lakeside Lounge, and it's like a bar on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
You know where that is?
Yeah, Lakeside. It's in East Nashville, right? It's
a popular
spot.
Yeah. It's gotten really popular over the past like year, 2 years. Mm-hmm. But when I was working there, it was, and I think Theo doesn't go. He probably doesn't go there anymore because that was like a reason he went there, is because it was so laid back. It was low key, like super low key, and and this is how weird I am with famous people. He comes in, and I'm like I knew it was him, and I'm like, Theo, what's up? And he shakes my hand. He's like, what's up, man? What's your name? And I said, Austin. And I asked, and then I was like, what's your name? Like, I didn't just say out loud, like, his name and stuff.
Like, it's like, this is how you introduce me.
Yeah.
I'm a robot now.
Yeah.
Austin. Yeah. Theo, right? I mean, yeah.
Oh my God, dude. I couldn't handle it. And then I tried to tell him later, like, oh, because I don't know why, but I wanted him to remember me. And so I like and when I told him my name was Austin at first, when he left, I was like, people call me Swink. And he just looked at me with this weird ass look, like, and then repeated it to make sure that he heard what I said, and he was like, okay, and then just left.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, I just can't handle it. I can't be. He's like the first famous person I ever met, and second person.
And it goes back to like that level of fame, like with these podcasters and all these people. It's that weird. You know so much about him, and they don't know anything about you. It's like, I'm practically. It sounds like that Stan song by Eminem. It's like, dude, you got this full blown relationship with this person that doesn't know your name. So. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's true though. It's true.
And then if they have like a big party, like you listen to them when you're at work, it's like, and you just absorb so much, and then like you do that for 2 years, 3 years, it's like, I know everything about you.
Right, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. One day I hope I get to meet him again, but in a more like professional manner.
Yeah, we're not. Like, I'm more normal now.
Yeah.
And then again, like, they're celebrities, so it's like, how far? It's not like a relationship that's gonna develop. You're just like, I'm just trying to make up for the last time.
Yeah. I mean, and both times I had different looks about me too. I had long hair the first time, and then short hair. He definitely would never remember me, or I was just trying my hardest. It just did not work.
I think you should just go get a tattoo.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
put it right here on my neck.
Yeah. That way it'll make it more normal.
Yeah, super
Just tat
normal.
him up.
Yeah. But I really do appreciate you coming on, Hunter. This was fun. And I can't thank you enough for even just being like working at FGL and meeting you and David Head. Sent me on the right direction when it comes to this MMA path, because I was doing nothing at the time. I had wrestled in high school, and then I turned 18 obviously and graduated, and I had not been doing anything combat sports related because the way my wrestling career ended didn't end necessarily the best. Like, I dislocated my elbow and didn't get to even tried to go for a state title, and I went to state the year before, so I was like, in my mind I was getting better, and I was like, I'm gonna win the state title this year. And then unfortunate things happened. I dislocated my elbow and lost more weight than I should have, even as a tiny dude. I got even tinier. And when I started working at FGL and I heard that, or y'all heard that I wrestled and invited me to go to Phoenix, it definitely opened up a lot of things for me and it made my quality of life way better. So I appreciate you and David Head.
Yeah, dude.
And
I'm glad. I'm like a jiu-jitsu, or like anytime I can spread. I'm a disciple. Anytime I can spread the word of jiu-jitsu, I'll spread it out. But I'm glad that I could have that impact. But thank you for being a good training partner. And yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
Keep grinding away.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate everybody that's been listening to these podcasts, because I'm having fun with them as well. We'll be having 2 podcasts this week. My co-host is going to be on. We'll have another one out literally the day after this one for the UFC fights this weekend for the betting stuff. So I appreciate everybody listening, but thank you again, Hunter. Peace, y'all.
Peace out. See you later, dude.